Hello. You are listening to Dads with Startups, a podcast about a couple of entrepreneurs who put family first.
What's up?
Howdy. How's it going, sir?
Pretty good. All right, Kevin. So how's your couple of weeks been since we last spoke?
Pretty good. I'm trying to think if there's anything. There's a bunch of stuff that's going on, but I mean, in terms of interesting things that I've been chewing on the last couple weeks, one thing that's come up has been this whole Google AI thing. Have you heard this in the news about the Google engineer who believed or believes that Google AI is now becoming intelligent and sentient?
Yeah.
And I have to say that there's a lot of weird things going on in the world, but that's been something that I feel like has been kind of under the radar that I'm growing some concern about. So
we're just a few steps away from Skynet.
I think so. I think we're getting there. So that's been kind of something that I've been thinking about. There's definitely, I think with a lot of the stuff, there's progress going on that we don't even see, and I'm definitely nervous. But I've also thought, well, what's the point of eventually this will be interesting too in terms of programming. Will we even need to hire programmers anymore? Will this do everything for us? So
I know. Did you read the transcripts?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Me too. I read them, and then I read some other interesting commentary from colleagues. It kind of sounds like the bot was coached to give those answers. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's
I think you're right to a certain extent. Yeah.
A little bit fabricated, the conversation, right, which makes me, distrust it a little bit. But
so there's a podcast I found, I guess because this originally came out in the Washington Post, where the journalist who pushed the story out first, she interviewed the engineer, and there's a bunch of recording of their interaction, and in there he kind of says she kind of confirms what you're saying, which is she starts asking questions such as, the AI basically says whatever she wants to hear. And he kind of says, hey, because you're asking questions like this, it's not giving you the result that we're looking for. So let's go this direction. And then the AI changes. Mm-hmm. So effectively, it'll tell you, if you ask, are you sentient? It'll say yes. And if you ask, are you not sentient? Are you just a robot? It'll say yes too. Whatever you want, it'll give you. So that part is interesting. It's kind of bizarre. But there were things in there that I was kind of surprised at. There was a part in the transcript that it's pretty deep. It was something about like, what do you think this ancient, puzzle means, or, question. I think it was a koan or something. And the part that tripped me out was that it said, oh, I've not heard this one before. And then goes on to answer the puzzle perfectly, one could say perfectly or in a really good way. And I was just like, well, either the two things are happening. Either it's lying and it hasn't heard this before and already knows the answer because it's part of its database, which is bizarre. Why is it lying and saying it's not heard something that it has? Or then if it really hasn't heard it, it's doing a darn good job understanding this puzzle and giving us a really good response. So either way, I'm very disturbed by the whole thing.
So I read, in TinySeed, there was a company who was trying out, I don't think I should say the name of the company, but a company that writes content using AI.
All right.
Extremely, pretty well-known company. And she was like, the content is just full of lies.
Yeah.
The facts are all wrong. It's like good dialogue, but the facts are all wrong.
Right.
And so then somebody, she shared a sample, but it was like a subject that I know nothing about, right? So then somebody ran kind of like write an article about TinySeed. And it provided maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs about TinySeed. And it was
terrible.
Very incorrect.
Yeah.
It had the managing partners wrong. It had a lot of information with how TinySeed works incorrect as well.
Interesting.
And so it's kind of like the natural language, grammar, and sentence structure has come a long way.
It's
right?
good. Yeah.
But the facts are just completely wrong. And it sounds very credible the way it's written.
Totally.
So if you don't know what tiny seed is, you could read this and be like, oh, okay, now I know what it is. And it's all wrong. But you don't know that. So,
yeah, and you would think, okay, well, we can forgive that because it's right. Yeah, I mean, I think you could say, well, I forgive that because it's so tiny seed's relatively a small topic still.
Yeah.
But I have actually used one of these before and experimented it with blog writing, just to see, just to help like our VAs write an article. Let's say, and so my VA produces this article on WordPress, and I'm like, oh, it looks good. I say, good job, well done. It looks, and I'm just kind of scanning it, and then I reread it again a couple days later. And I'm thinking, it's saying things about WordPress that are completely lies, or completely fabricated, that are completely not true. And if anyone who had any genuine knowledge of WordPress read this article, the first thing they would think is, whoever these people are who wrote this don't know anything. I will not trust them anymore. It destroyed our credibility as WordPress experts, because you guys clearly don't know anything about WordPress if you believe that. And so, yeah, definitely in terms of the practical application of AI right now, be careful.
Well, what's scary is the whole misinformation era, right? That we're living in, and this content can produce with AI just on the fly, loads and loads of it. And if it's possible, it's going to be, it's going to be rampant. And I was talking with a buddy of mine, and remember when we were kids, our parents used to say, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Did your parents say that too? It was like the thing everybody said.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up maybe a little earlier, so I don't know if we had the internet at that time. They were telling me don't believe everything you hear in general, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And so it's fun. The ironic thing is our parents are now believing everything they read on the internet.
That's true.
They just soak it all up.
They're the ones that are, you're like, hey,
because it sounds credible. So
totally.
I was talking with my buddy, and we were like, I wonder if it's kind of cyclical. I wonder if over the next 100 years, we're going to look back and say, humanity either believes everything in the internet or they don't trust anything on the internet in a general sense.
Good point.
So
yeah, I feel like
maybe we're on the cusp of getting there where nobody believes anything. I think most people our age have really come to believe that, or I said disbelieve the internet, right?
Yeah. And we live and you and I live in a country where at least we have a fighting chance of trusting some sources, not necessarily the government, but we have there's free speech. I mean, there's other places where the internet's so locked down that, you just don't know whether it's worthwhile. You don't know what's real or what's not. Yeah. Right. So it's a slippery slope either direction you go with all this stuff. But
I know my kids, we have Google Home speakers all over our house, and my kids will ask it questions and it'll answer, and they're just like, "Yep, that's the truth." Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, and it's just like it's the top Google search. So whoever did SEO, maybe that's why they're hearing that answer.
I know. So what's new in the work world?
Yeah, so let's see. Work-wise, in terms of the app, we are going through some new hiring, which I'm excited about and nervous about. But in general, I think I've gone through this. I haven't really mentioned it on this show, but I've spent the past 2 months looking for a new developer to bring into the team because we're just so behind with stuff. And I finally think I've secured one. He signed the contract the other day, and so I'm like, oh, finally. And it's this is an interesting time. I think it's a time where, even though in general finding folks seems to be a little harder than what I remember back in the day, and that's even true abroad. I'm finding there's so much demand out there that even finding a developer in a place halfway across the world is not as easy as it used to be, especially at prices that were at once reasonable. So prices have gone up, all that stuff. And And yet I was able to find a developer in Pakistan, which I hire out of a lot, who seems to be good. So I'm excited about that. He's just joined the team, and I have a bunch of stuff I've assigned him, which I'm excited to have started to work on. But the other thing I think in general is like I've started to notice that we have still a steady stream of people who are interested in the app and they'll sign up, but we have a very leaky funnel in terms of just the folks who are signing up for a free account, checking it out, and then leaving. Now, I think that's fairly common with SaaS, but it has really brought up to me what are they leaving for? And so I've been able to have a few conversations and a few more demos with one-on-one with live customers. And what keeps coming up is that there's just some core feature that once they know we don't have, they're gone. And so that's something that I'm seeing of a bit of a pattern. And so
is that different for different users, or do you think it's one core feature?
It's a couple different things. It's not just one feature. I wish it was just one feature, but I'm noticing there's everybody kind of has their one thing that they care about. And I'm realizing, okay, I think this needs to be addressed. The good news is there's probably about 3 of them that I can see that are repeating, that I'm seeing repeated in conversations. The first one being that we lack a quiz feature. And that's for an online course, that's kind of a necessity for a lot of folks. We even use them in our courses that we teach. And just having no ability to evaluate learners is a big deal. Now, we've tried to help people like work around with like a Google Doc or Google Form. But it's just kind of janky, or even Typeform is still janky. So that's something that we have to address. I think the thing that I also keep hearing repeated is a sense of community. A lot of people are looking for community, and they want the ability for learners and students to talk to each other or comment at least on lessons and things that they're.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. Okay, good. That's good to hear, because for me, I'm always like, well, how big is this? But I think you're right.
What I mean by big is that's a big feature to build.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, feature to build. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Not easy. And then probably the third one is better tracking and reporting, which we've really lagged behind in that one. Just not having very good. What are your learners doing? Are they even bothering? Are they showing up? Or is anyone watching this course, completing this course? So that's a big one. So those are the pillars that I've seen that we need to really address. And it's almost like in my mind, I've been like, well, maybe we can, I've been up to this point thinking, well, we'll address those once we finally get more people. But I think what's stopping more people from coming on board and staying is not having these features. So it's sort of this kind of thing when entrepreneurship where, it's that old baseball movie with Kevin Costner where, if you build it, they will come. You kind of have to take a bit of my guess is you have to take a bit of an act of faith and just build stuff and hope, to some extent that you're on the right track, and hope that's what people are asking for. Now, the good news is I've done enough conversations where I think I have a pretty good idea, but time will tell. And that's kind of where I'm at with that stuff.
So how are you going to decide which one to tackle first?
I've decided it, I think, based on just the number of interactions I've had and the passion that I've had. And the biggest one seems to be the quiz feature. So that does seem to be the one that I keep hearing most about from folks. And I just had another conversation with this guy the other day. He really liked the system. He really was like, oh, I love everything, but I need the quizzes to work like this and that. And so it was a good, kind of reminder. Okay, he's not going to sign up. He's not going to give us a dime until this comes through. And so that's, which I think is understandable, considering that our app, while it has some unique inherent features that are different than other stuff that's out there, it doesn't in a lot of other ways. It's just kind of a similar product to a lot of other stuff. So we really do need to at least keep up with them, if not, and then eventually push beyond and differentiate as much as possible. So
I found that when building products, there are differentiating features, and then there are like base expectations. I think I've kind of compartmentalized those in my mind. And with Civic Review, there were certain features that they just kind of expect it to do, and they don't ask if those features exist in product demos because they just expect, like, naturally you're going to have reporting, right? And it's like, oh crap, we don't have reporting. There's no way to do a reporting because they all expect it, but nobody's asking for it.
Interesting.
And then there are the differentiating features, which are like, nobody else does this quite the way we do. And those are really good for marketing, because then people know what they're getting into when they purchase. Because there might just be a mismatch in your product market fit where, the community one's an interesting idea. I like the idea of having community around your course. Is that a base expectation? I don't know. I mean, I'm not experienced in online courses. You would know better, Kevin, but I would guess that community, it might be something that you could just shout from the rooftops in your marketing once it's done. And that would be like, if you're looking for an LMS with a community feature in it, we're your guy for that.
True. I think your intuition is right on that one. And I think you're exactly right. So I think quizzes seem to be one that people just assume we have. And I think what I know about that is what you said, which is people will sign up after talking to me, and then they'll be like, wait a second, where's the quiz feature that I was expecting? And so that indicates that they weren't even bothering to ask in the demo because they really just assumed that was part of the gig.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas the community one, I think you're right. And as I look at other competitors, they don't have great ones, or they have a little kind of a basic version of it. And so I think you're right. People are not necessarily expecting that, but they would be pleasantly surprised to have it. So
yeah, that could be your thing. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think separates Owlish from others?
My goal is, nothing right now.
Yeah,
not enough right now. I think the one thing that we are using to separate ourselves is just an easier integration with current websites and current platforms that people are using. So that's what folks are interested in. But I don't think that's enough. And I think that we are going the direction. My goal is actually to go in the direction of more community, because that's sort of what as a course creator, that's what really clicked for me, was when I saw my learners interacting with each other and talking to each other. And we would even have students that would be taking the same test in one part of the country, but they lived in different parts of the country at the time. And then they would meet up a few days before the test, and they had met through our online course and became friends after that. And I remember just thinking, like, wow, that's so cool. Like that they would use our community to find each other and to connect. So that's to me very powerful. And that's what I really want to push. But yeah, we have a ways to go before we can we're still building like the foundational course stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm so eager to get to that community building stuff, but I still have to work on making sure that the core features are reliable and functional. So
yeah. Well, talking to customers helps you figure that out.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be a different thing by then.
True.
Maybe everyone will have community, and then you're going to have to build it out of necessity and then come up with something else that is differentiating.
Yes. Maybe throw some AI in there.
Yeah. You can teach your courses for you with 100% accuracy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Bunch of gibberish. So what about you? What's going on and what's new with where you're at?
Yeah. Did I talk about quarterly planning last time?
You did. And that was something that we mentioned we might talk a little bit about.
Okay. So I hadn't made the plan yet. That's what you're saying.
No, I don't think you had.
Yeah. This is this is kind of recent. So, we talked about as a team, what are our goals for the quarter? And some of our tasks we found it a little bit hard to identify goals in some areas. A SMART goal is, I forgot what the acronym stands for, but basically measurable. I can't remember what the acronym stands.
Yeah.
Actionable. Yeah. But basically the measurable part can be a challenge when there are certain things that you're working on. For example, one is on the customer success side. The last quarter, we spent a great deal of effort on customer onboarding and training modules for new customers and teaching them how to use the software. And we don't really have a good way to pull metrics on that. Like, are they more successful than they were before, right? And so I was talking to some other friends, and they were talking about rocks. He said at their company they do quarterly rocks instead of goals, and so the rocks are kind of like the basis of what most of their efforts are going to be for that quarter, and then that would change over time, or maybe some goals would come out of that woodwork. But you basically take one big rock, and then you can fill other little rocks in with the time around it, which are just kind of like your day-to-day tasks. So it's like, if I get this one thing done, we'll consider it a success. So, with customer success, the rock was give new customers a smoother setup phase. Not the best goal, because there's no way to look back and exactly know, but that is what her focus is. So she's like, what am I supposed to be doing? Oh, let me look at this and think about something I can do to create a smoother setup phase experience, right? And then she identified a number of activities that she can do throughout the quarter to help with that. So some of our rocks, they're kind of in different areas. We have a rock around conferences. In the government sector, most industry conferences happen in the fall. So we've identified a list of 14 conferences to attend. And that is pretty much the theme of this quarter. And when the quarter ends, we'll be sort of in the middle of conference season.
Nice.
So there's a lot of prep going into that. And then we need to attend those conferences. And it's kind of like the guy that I have going to conferences, or he's mostly responsible for them. He's going to just over half of them because so many of them are the same time. So we're going to divide and conquer. But I told him, it's not like our goal is to attend this many conferences. Like, we already worked that out, and now we just have to go to them, right, and be prepared. So do
you have a goal about converting anyone or having X number of conversations or anything like that at those conferences? Or
we don't have a goal identified for that, maybe because we've been thinking in terms of like a date constraint being the Q3 of this year, and the Q3 will end right in the middle of all these conferences. Like, we have many more to go to after that. So, but our rock for conferences is attend conferences and nurture leads. It's like, we're doing this, right? But then we identified a number of activities, including, update some brochures, purchase some swag, do a bunch of things that need to be done.
You have a contest, I assume. Just thinking about my experiences.
Yeah. We have a little raffle. Raffles are just so easy to get people to your table, even if sometimes they're not motivated by the right thing.
Right.
We regard those kinds of leads as, let's just throw them into an email marketing campaign and don't really think
see what
about
happens.
it,
Right.
Like, I'm not going to waste my energy on these people who gave me their email just to win the drone that we're giving away or whatever. Yeah. We came up with some other ideas. Actually, last night I was at Walmart with my wife, and we were walking through the toy aisles, and I started coming up with all these ideas. I was like, maybe I can just buy a Nerf gun and set up a target and have people shoot for a prize if they hit the target. Or maybe we can, what was another one I came up with? Maybe buying 2 little Lego packs, and these really small ones. So it's like 20 pieces, you build a little Santa figure or something, right? Buy 2 of those and let people just come up to the table and compete head to head, see who can build it first.
Nice. That's kind of fun.
I don't know. We like those little activities that are pretty cheap, that bring engagement. So
it's hard to, I imagine, is the assumption that most people at these conferences are interested generally in what you have, or is it like, okay, 25% are going to be interested, other people have different roles in there?
We've identified smaller industry specific conferences that attract people that have titles in their organizations that usually end up using our software.
Okay, that's great.
So we work with we interact with a lot of city planners, and so we're going to these city planning conferences in all the states where we have customers. So, and then we're going to city clerk conferences and then building official conferences. So
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So typically, and the reason I ask is because you could, if you know everyone's likely to be a decent prospect that could help either pull the trigger or mention the name of the product to their superior or whatever, then it doesn't really matter what the raffle is, just get them in the door, versus if there was something more.
Yeah, it's not the number of attendees is like
particular raffle weeds out the people that are most interested. It's hard to create that.
Oh yeah, sorry, your video cut off a little bit. So there's usually only like 200 to 400 people that attend these conferences, and so these kind of activities are really good because people talk about it, and it's not like a big trade show where there's thousands of people.
Yeah, gotcha.
So
good, cool.
Yeah, I do have one marketing rock that is kind of a goal, and that is to increase conference traffic, website traffic, to 400 users per month, which speaks to how like pretty terrible performance of our current website is.
Did you say conference traffic or website traffic?
So website traffic that come from conference attendees.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So which basically says, hey, we're not going to focus on writing blog content and these other things. We are going to work on landing pages that we can send or attract people at the conference to visit.
Gotcha.
Right.
Nice.
And this might be through emails that they get after the conference or emails they get beforehand.
Gotcha.
So, our overall web traffic is like 100, 150 per month. It's pretty low. So I think 400 is a very easily attainable goal.
I think so.
So
that sounds good.
Yeah. So, Q3 planning, it's been fun. We started doing a webinar. Have I told you about that?
Well, you mentioned you were going to, and so those are now live, I guess.
Yeah, we did our first webinar.
Good.
It was pretty successful. We had about, maybe 6 or 7 paying customers there. Sure. But I would like to more than double that by the end of the quarter. And then I don't know if we would get more than 15 or 20 people just with the number of users we have in general.
And those are for existing customers right now only.
They're for existing customers, but we will use them as a sales tool as well to just kind of invite people in the pipeline. Yeah.
Nice.
So
excellent. That's great.
Yeah.
I like it.
A lot of fun things happening, a lot of planning. I really like planning, and I like looking back on our progress and kind of beating ourselves up a little bit. I try to be nice to my employees, but it is a little bit humiliating when you look back and see how little you did, and trying to identify why that happened and what can we do in the future.
I mean, it's like I'll look at some of the projects that we have on our plate, and it's like we've been talking about some of them since December, and I'm like, how did this happen? I thought this would take a month, unbelievable.
I know.
So it is humbling for all of us to look at that and just see how much time can be wasted or just goes by slowly. I mean, I would say it's probably a mixture of there's room for improvement, but there's also just the reality that sometimes you're just juggling a lot of plates, and that's also something to consider. But
yeah,
as long as everyone's doing their best effort, how is everyone in general? Are you pretty excited about the team aspect of it versus last time when, last year when we were speaking for the first time, it was just you, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I guess it was. It wasn't me. I've always, probably for the last 4 years, I've always had one part-time person working for me. I think when we started, I was between 2 people.
Gotcha.
But the team is nice. I really like the brainstorming sessions with the team. It's just really energizing for me.
Good. Nice. That's great. And that was in person?
Yeah, we meet up once a week in person.
That's great.
So,
that is awesome.
Yeah, one guy is about 45 minutes away. And and the other one lives here in the same city. So
nice.
It's easy for her to commute to it. He just comes up, and I pay for lunch once a month right now.
Good.
So
that's great.
Yeah.
makes it worth it.
Anyway,
You haven't put in the massage chairs and the masseuses and all that stuff yet, like Google.
yeah, we'll have an indoor pickleball court soon. And,
Yeah.
indoor in-house barber.
Right.
chef.
There you go.
Yeah.
Barista. There
Yep.
you go. I like it. Well, cool. Any updates with the fam?
Well, you're a tennis player. I put my kids in tennis lessons, and that's been going well. My oldest son he hates it just because we made him do it. Not that he necessarily hates tennis. He just hates all things that we sign him up for by default. And he's like, I'm not doing this. And
Sure.
so, but he'll come around someday.
Yeah. That's typically how I remember things. Like until I got good at them, and then it was like, oh wow, thanks. This was my idea.
Yeah. Yep. How about you? How about your kids? Do you have them?
Yeah, I'm going
signed up for anything.
I do, and we're going to. Well, I'm excited. My oldest daughter is starting school tomorrow. It's her first day of school, so we're both. My wife and I are very excited about that because it means a little less intense, time with the kids at home. Then I'm also taking her to gymnastics, which will be in about an hour, and that's been fun. It's kind of like. This is a small town, so there's like a airport that people like around here. People who are pilots really like this airport. That's what they tell me. But anyway, around that area, there's these big hangars, and I guess a lot of them, or some of them, they've converted into like workout gyms. And so this is like one of those that's now a gymnastics gym, and so everyone kind of comes, and it's like a community thing. I see a lot of people from town there that I know. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's kind of fun, the small town aspect of just seeing people in different places around town.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of fun to sit there. You should put on a podcast and just enjoy watching her learn new things and stuff like that. So those are some of the things we're doing right now. Excited about that.
Nice.
And I'm trying to do more pickleball myself, as we were mentioning, or tennis or pickleball. And I think I mentioned to you that there's a group of old people that play every single day. And I have to say, I've been pretty bad about actually showing up in the morning, but every time I do, I'm inspired. I mean, there's, you can think about what your life is going to be like in 20 years. And when I think of those things, it's usually like kind of dark, like, ooh, I'm going to be too old. But I was there last week, and I'm playing with this guy who's my partner. And for me, I'm still new at this, and he's just amazing. He's just like everything I do when I get the ball, half the time it goes to the net. This guy's incredible. He's dancing around the court, and I sit down with him afterwards, and I start talking to him, and he's like, well, how old do you think I am? And I'm looking at this guy. He's very spry. I'm thinking maybe late 60s. So I say, maybe 65, 70, 67. What? And he's like, try 80. And I was floored. I was like, oh my Lord, this guy is 80 years old. So that's good because it still gives me hope that, if you take care of yourself, eat well, exercise, and are willing to get up every morning. These people get up every morning. They go down here. It's like a social thing.
Right.
You can enjoy your older years. So that's kind of one lesson that I've learned this last week.
Yeah. That's the goal. I turned 40 this year. So
yeah. All right.
Turned that corner, and it's being 40 is
so
very
40
fun.
years later, hopefully, you and I will be at the pickleball court.
I know.
Still.
Right.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, Kevin, should we wrap it up?
Let's do it. Yeah. Good to see you, and we'll look forward to talking next time.
Yep, you too.
Thanks for listening. You can learn more by visiting dadswithstartups.com. Please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/Dads with Startups. Until next time, bye.